What's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. What we're going to be doing is that well, this came out in my suggestions and whatnot, and I thought, what the heck, let's react to it. We've already reacted to a video dealing with an interrogation by our good old friend Jeff. If you haven't seen that video yet, I suggest you go check it out. It's pretty cool and very informative as well. So yeah, anyhow, let's dive into the whole debacle of what's going on here, which apparently is that a youngling, 11-year-old, made a phone call to 911 apparently. So okay, sorry. Yeah, an 11-year-old apparently made a prank, or some kind of prank, and by the title of the video doesn't sound like it's gonna go well. So let's dive into that. Anyways, I'll leave the original video in the description, so go ahead and check that out on your own whenever you got the chance, guys. So yeah, I just copied it and I'll paste it in the descriptions for you all to go check out, and also to subscribe and like the video as well. So show them some support to EWUBodycam. Okay, all right, let's dive into this event thing.
So there was a text message from someone saying they were behind a car. Their friend was kidnapped from a Chick-fil-A in Palm Coast, and they were on the interstate behind the car.
Everything on your phone is telling me that you may.
I can already tell that this is going to go very sideways. Law enforcement doesn't take, these prank calls like, yeah, I think it should go, well, I think like several years back when the whole swatting thing was like, a thing before, like it was a thing or whatever. And it was starting to just pop out all over, all over the internet and whatnot, news articles saying these events happen and whatnot. This prank calls or whatever, or calling, 911 as a prank or whatever is a felony. And if you mistakenly call 911, you got to make sure you tell the dispatcher you're on the line with right away that, like, oh, I'm terribly sorry. It's it's really nothing, okay, or whatever and whatnot. But like, 911, it should be said, should go without saying actually, that 911 calls are, like should be taken seriously and whatnot. Usually 100% are taken seriously and whatnot. And if you, of course, make a 911 call and it becomes totally bogus, that's a lot of manpower and money going down the drain and whatnot. And lives can be at risk as well when you have, a whole department, a whole precinct, responding to such a 911 call and whatnot, and it turns out to be bogus. And then somehow in the middle of that, while they're trying to figure out whether if it's like, bogus or looking for said crime, responding to said crime, like kidnapping, robbery, whatever, something serious, right? They're going to be busy, trying to figure out all that manpower and time that's being wasted that could have been used for an actual, response, emergency and whatnot. I mean, it's fucked regardless and whatnot. A situation like that can be pretty fucked and go, really sideways.
Made a phone call 911.
I didn't talk.
Because you did something stupid.
Yeah. Well then, okay, so they're showing highlights at the moment, so we're probably gonna go through what's gonna be happening.
Here, Amanda. Here's up. Hey.
Ooh, whoa, dude.
On July 26, 2023, dispatchers in Volusia County receive urgent 911 text from
2
a
years ago.
driver who claims to be following an armed kidnapper's van
Damn,
on the
dude.
interstate. When they trace the phone, however, they learn the messages are coming from a residence in Port Orange, turning a plea for help into an unexpected lesson in consequences.
I'm telling you this right now. You're going to take this as a lesson at 11 years old that if you do something stupid in the future, you're going to enjoy those cuffs.
Oh, damn. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, you know, a father. He probably didn't even know. He's probably dumbfounded and whatnot. And plus, she's 11 years old, has a cell phone. You know, I think I mentioned this some time ago in a different video that kids honestly should not be having fucking cell phones. Honestly, they should not. Not until like once they're like in high school and whatnot, you know, because kids can be so impressionable, especially even at that age when they're starting to become into late adolescence, whatever, being a juvenile in their teens, yada yada yada. Because you know hormones are raging and whatnot, and they can't necessarily, you know, or you know, how do I say this? Like unless you're like, you know, like a parent that like kind of lets your child do whatever and whatnot and not have like any form of discipline and whatnot, you know, that's one thing. But if, you know, you just let your kid do whatever they want and whatnot, of course, you know, that's going to have some serious repercussions. So, you know, I think it's just common sense of like, you know, when you're raising your kid and whatnot. But I will say, like, you know, giving your child, you know, a phone and whatnot, and like I understand like you want to keep in contact with the child or whatever, but you know, I think these days that classrooms should have cameras and whatnot, because I've also seen a lot of articles and a lot of fuck shit going on with teachers, especially female teachers. I'm seeing an increasingly amount of, you know, the sexual conduct going around and whatnot. Teachers sleeping with their students and stuff like that. I think every parent should have, or every school actually, should now have live stream surveillance and whatnot for parents to, like, you know, to watch and whatnot. Like, oh, you can get an app for this school and whatnot, and then, you know, type in your kid's classroom and whatnot, and then boom, there you go. You can see your kid, you know, playing his day, checking up on him, making sure the teacher is, like, you know, being on the straight and narrow and whatnot. Because it's getting really crazy out here, dude. I even seen like even children being complete douchebags and like even treating teachers wrong as well and whatnot. And I tell you, for some of the teachers that are actually, you know, doing their job and whatnot and trying to, like, you know, teach the next generation and whatnot, they're dealing with a lot as well, dude. Like, holy fucking shit, it's getting out of hand.
The following report is based on official police records, and the footage has mostly never been seen before until now.
Yes,
It's just after 9:45 a.m. when 911 begins receiving texts from someone named Lily Lee Combs. She claims to be following a kidnapper's van on the interstate, and updates are still pouring in.
What?
Volusia County.
Whoa, holy crap, dude. So she called for to report a kidnapping.
Deputies, multiple area police departments.
If you don't know how it usually works, but I think it's like, you know, just a universal rule of thumb for police, law enforcement, regardless, wherever. Once there's, like, you know, a report of a kidnapping or something like that, it's all hands on deck. What every single cop, whatever they're doing, wherever they are, they drop whatever they're doing, and then it's like, you know, straight to, you know, finding said missing person and whatnot, because kidnapping is, like, you know, it's really up there and whatnot, and it's all hands on deck, freaking searching for so and so, for said missing person. And the fact that this 11-year-old made a prank call for, it's a felony, dude. I can tell you right that it's a
apartments
right
and
right
a
now.
helicopter joined the urgent search. When they failed to locate the van, a deputy.
It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, dude. It's really serious for a kidnapping, a very serious offense and whatnot.
Tries calling the phone number that's been sending the text messages.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Caller.
Is this what's your name? Can you hear me?
No.
Hello? I'm trying to reach the person that called 911.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, can you hear me? Oh, shut up.
I think, oh man, I think if it were me and I was like, the police and whatnot trying to, call this person and whatnot, my guessing is that like, you're in how do I say, in a state of rush or whatnot, or you're like hyper vigilant and whatnot, and you're basically trying to respond to the call and whatnot. It's you're trying to race through your head and whatnot, trying to find this missing person. Like in the beginning of the call, to me, it sounded like it feels like a bit of a situation where like that the person like is following said kidnapper, right, and whatnot, and like he's also thinking like can you tell me where you are or something like that. I think that's where he's probably gonna originally initiate in trying to get in contact with this person. But now that she hung up and whatnot, I don't know, maybe if something in his head is like going like something ain't right, or something's off. Straight to voicemail.
It says, RP confirming they are in a blue Jeep. Victim is in a white van. They can see they are being restrained through the windows.
Okay.
At the turnaround?
At the turnaround.
A new text message comes through, including a detailed description of the suspect, who's described as having brown hair and blue eyes.
Brown hair, blue eyes.
How is she behind him?
How is she behind him?
She's seeing this happen and she knows what color eyes he has.
Yeah, that sounds a little sus in a way.
That's weird.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost not adding up and whatnot.
Brown hair and blue eyes, but she's behind him. Like, if she was like saw the incident or saw witnessed the kidnapping, or like, how would you even be following them and know any of this?
Exactly. That's it's freaking sus. It's not adding up at this point. So I think the cops, the officers are like their bullshit meter is kind of going off a bit.
Yeah, RP confirming they are in a blue Jeep, victim in a white van. Of course it's a white van. Like, it just... Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not saying this by any means, but it's just...
Oh, man. It's like 50-50 with them right now, too. Like, even he's like, a white van, obviously, it's like the stereotype, right? You see it in the fucking movies, guys. Freaking white van shows up out of nowhere, pick somebody up, and, it's bye-bye and whatever.
Yeah. I've had calls like this before.
Their suspicion. Yeah, I think a freaking cop even said it and whatnot, and now he's almost like can't make heads or tails with this now.
It's about the text messages are all but confirmed when a GPS trace on the phone comes back to a residence in Port Orange, indicating the texter is not traveling on the highway as they claimed.
Okay.
Deputies quickly head to the residence to investigate.
Hi there, how you doing? Is this your residence, sir?
This is.
Do you have a daughter or a child at the home named by Lily Lee?
No.
No?
No.
Anybody home?
Yeah, my wife.
So what, it's a fucking fake name now? What the heck?
My kid. We just got home from Pennsylvania. I have an Ava and a Mikey.
From Pennsylvania. Damn, what the heck?
Ava and a Mikey?
Yep.
Ava and Mikey.
Would you like to see them?
The deputies follow him to his house, where he informs his wife what's going on.
Oh, shit.
Here was the 911 call?
Yeah, so somebody called in, or, well, they texted...
Sorry, I'm in my pajamas.
No, it's fine.
You're fine.
Someone texted into 911 that someone was getting kidnapped and they were on the interstate, but then when they went and did like a location on the phone...
Okay, so yeah, so they did triangulate, the call.
Address was showing up here.
As their daughter Ava steps into the garage, her phone rings. The deputy answers it, leading to
the jig is up then.
Shocking conclusion.
Yeah, no shit. What the fuck?
Hello? Hold on. Who's this?
Volusia County Sheriff's Office.
All right, cool. This is Deputy Asby, the Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
Oh, good. You got her.
Yep.
Oh,
all right.
Whoa, dude. Holy fucking crap. Dude, that is not smart whatsoever. Not smart at all. What are you doing?
Oh, okay, is her dad home?
Yep, I got both her parents here.
Yeah, we're going to ask the sheriff to go away in a second.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
What happened? I'm so.
Let me see this phone.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so all these other numbers. So there's a
They
phone
got
call
the
out to
record, too.
911.
There's a phone call out to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, no
What
shit.
time?
dude.
That's her call.
Fucking
That's her
A.
calling it.
There's 911 again right there.
This phone was called
These numbers calling back in are roll caller ID.
You did.
Yes,
Well,
you
there's
did.
3 different times of 911
Oh, so
was
she's
called
not
out
on
from
the,
this phone.
so she entered the room already now in the garage.
9:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the initial call.
Ooh, goddamn. Sorry, guys. Ugh. Fucking sneezing. Twice.
No, I didn't mean to call that because I. But you did.
Reports
did.
show that the number belonging to Ava dialed 911 at 9:30.
9:30.
When asked where the
Oh, so this happened in Port Orange, Florida. County Volusia. Okay. I hope I pronounced that right. Description: BWC digital evidence for filter. I don't know what that says. It's a little blurry. Description: Apple iPhone, property status evidence, NCIS, property category, personal accessory, property type, portable, electronic communications. So yeah, they got the whole incident report and whatnot, and yeah, it's just down. Everyth's already listed and whatnot.
emergency
basically.
is a female identified as possible.
Everything else is pretty much blurred out for protection reasons. Obviously, they got the cell phone number and whatnot. I can see that it's blurred out and whatnot. Cell phone number, probably name or address and whatnot.
Possibly a juvenile responded, "I'm sorry, I dialed the wrong number."
Okay.
The same phone number would later begin texting 911 to report the kidnapping.
When did. I'm just so confused. I'm sorry. When did you guys.
I mean, even when I was younger, say even around that age and whatnot, in my elementary school, we had, I think on Fridays, an officer of our local precinct come in and basically give us, how do I say, lifelong information or lessons and whatnot. It's they fucking say a police officer, I think it was a sheriff, if I remember correctly, came to my elementary school and whatnot, and handed out booklets and whatnot, and basically give an hour and a half lecture about different types of topics, like drugs, which was a big one and whatnot, things to do in an emergency, like fire hazards and whatnot, extinguisher, etc., that type of thing. What to do when you make a phone call, or if you deal with police or firefighters, any person, a first responder, etc., that type of deal. And it was called SAVE. I forgot what the pronunciation was called, but it was a program around in my time when I was in elementary school. I say maybe 4th or 5th grade, and at the end of the lesson and whatnot, they give like a little test and whatnot, and if you pass the test, they give you a SAVE shirt and whatnot with the with the acronym SAVE. But I forgot what the SAVE acronym means now, whatever. But looking back was great advice and whatnot. The do's and don'ts when it comes to first responders and whatnot. When you make a call to 911, you make sure that it's an emergency. And I remember the sheriff or the officer that was giving us the lecture gave us like the standards of or the list of qualifications of what would make an to call 911 that would qualify as an emergency and whatnot, and things that aren't can be is a big no and whatnot. And I remember the officer basically said that it was like, that you can get into deep trouble, if you make a prank or, blah, 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 blah. Exactly the same reasons that I just mentioned earlier, and it can become a felony and you can, do time in jail, whatever, juvenile hall, etc., depending on the seriousness of the, call or whatever.
You got a message about an interstate?
So there was a text message from someone saying they were behind a car.
Could I call this
Who
back?
was kidnapped. Their friend was kidnapped from a Chick-fil-A in Palm Coast.
Okay.
And they were on the interstate behind the car.
What time is this?
This
Today?
is this is today. It's
Oh, I
usually
got
going
home
on.
at 2:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Oh,
So
shit.
we were
Damn, so they were in Pennsylvania. So they probably took a flight and they friggin' got there around 2:30 in the morning.
here the whole time since 2:30.
Uh-huh.
We were on the interstate coming
Hey,
home
man,
from
everything's showing that
Pennsylvania.
Right.
Oh, so they were
We
driving.
showed up
Okay,
here
never
like
mind.
2:10.
I thought they took a flight.
15.
Okay.
And we went to bed.
But these 911 calls
For this
out.
morning. You were calling 911? You were. Don't look surprised. You did.
Right.
You
Did
did
you-
it on your phone.
Did they say anything to you?
Okay. On the one hand, yes, the cops, they got the reasons and whatnot, and they're investigating and whatnot. But if also at the same time on the other side, the flip side, on the parent side, they should have just exercised their Fifth Amendment privilege and whatnot. However, I'm not exactly too sure how in this situation would necessarily work and whatnot, especially if the evidence is definitely showing that that she made the call and is basically giving a bogus statement or reporting a bogus crime being committed for the kidnapping. It's a bit how do I say, maybe counterintuitive, or the jig is up basically and whatnot. But still, if I was the dad or whatever, I would have been like, okay, you know what, stop everything, I want a lawyer, you need to get a warrant, blah 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 blah, that type of thing and whatnot. However, like I said, I'm not sure if that would be a correct course of action or whatever and whatnot, but I guess as soon as you've been Mirandized and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, once you get Mirandized, should definitely heed and say right after that, I want a lawyer and whatnot. Should be your go-to every single time, guys, regardless of, what, of what you're being accused of and whatnot. Just giving you some advice to protect yourselves out there. Once you've been Mirandized, keep your mouth shut, get a lawyer. Say, I want a lawyer. I ain't talking to you.
No one said anything to you?
I don't know.
Did you say, Ava, you have to explain what happened.
But, sometimes even people or, the average person is a bit, I don't want to say ignorant, but is a little bit, not too well educated on their rights and whatnot and what they can invoke and whatnot. But it should be just a ground rule in the back of your head. Once you've been, like I said, once you've been Mirandized, say you want a lawyer. I ain't talking to you. Keep your mouth shut. Roll with the punches, even though it's getting annoying. They're talk to me. Freaking cop is all up in your shit and be like, nope, give me a lawyer. And of course, if evidence is overwhelming against you and whatnot, then you'll have to settle that in court, of course, on trial and whatever. But that's a different story.
Here, something's going on. What did you know? What do you know?
Mikey, go inside. Ava, get your shoes on. Come out here.
Oof.
I didn't hit anything. Want me to close the door? I just hit. You're not in trouble.
going
I
on?
just need to know what happened. I need to know and
Okay.
understand because this is weird.
Because we got to make sure that
Obviously.
there's not somebody that's being kidnapped on the interstate.
They've confirmed via text to 911 that she was still on the I-95 with an armed kidnapper. The following text also sent at 10:18 a.m. Ava admitted being in bed.
Say we're trying to find them, and
Open your mouth if you said
it.
something on the phone.
I didn't say anything.
Side of the road.
Everything on your phone is telling me that you made a phone call 911.
I didn't talk.
While one deputy heads to...
Yeah, you freaking did talk, bro. Come on, don't lie. The officer responded. You were like, hello, blah, 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 blah. Pretty much counts as, as talking.
The cruiser, she greets officers from the Port Orange Police Department who have just arrived at the scene.
Hey guys, how's it going?
I was just trying to make heads or tails of that damn call.
Where's...
Yeah, no shit.
My God.
Yeah, we're trying to figure it out. We're with the parents and the daughter, and I guess the daughter did have... We pulled up the call log, and she did call 911.
So the whole kidnapping thing and all that stuff is bogus, or
Yeah.
There was no text evidence when we looked through it, so I don't know if she deleted it real quick or if it's like through an app. Yeah, it seems it's probably just the swatting thing. She's like 10 years old.
Swatting thing, yeah.
Yeah.
While Ava's parents demand...
Yeah, it's basically what it almost is and whatnot, because if they were to capture, the said kidnapper and whatnot, he could be armed and dangerous and whatnot, and SWAT's going to be like, right there waiting to take this guy down and save the hostage and whatnot. The kidnappee.
Demand an explanation. Deputies prepare to Mirandize the 11-year-old, who has yet to fully grasp the gravity of the situation.
Of course not. She's a friggin' 11-year-old and whatnot. That's on the one hand and whatnot, of course. But of course, at times the law, ignorance is no excuse for the law and whatnot.
Lied to the police and mommy and daddy. You just lied to everybody.
You have 3 sheriffs here for stupidity.
Tell them what you just said to us.
Open your mouth. I'm telling you, open your mouth.
Maybe they shouldn't though and whatnot still. And just be like to the officers, like, look, I'm terribly sorry, but we're gonna get a lawyer, okay? So blah 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 blah. Even though I don't think that they'll probably have a chance in court once they go through the whole, proceedings and whatnot, and get to that point. Excuse me. It's damn dude, it's a freaking a very complicated kind of thing and whatnot, especially if the evidence is like, of course, all pointing towards your phone, and the phone is like, linked to your ass and whatnot, then it's almost going to be a freaking downhill slide for that kind of situation and whatnot, because the evidence is already pretty much pointing against you and whatnot, and it's almost counter intuitive or productive and whatnot, even if you were to get a lawyer and whatnot. But I don't know, maybe you can friggin' still fight it and wave it off somehow.
She's gonna read you something, and then we're gonna ask you some questions. What's your name? Ava. How old are you, Ava?
All right, Miss Ava, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you any questions, and to have the lawyer present during any questioning. You cannot afford a lawyer. One will be appointed for you.
I mean, even for the parents at this point, still should have kind of stepped in and like, yeah, we're not going to answer any questions. We want to get a lawyer. Just be done with it and right there and whatnot. But my guess is that that's probably not what they're going to do.
Before my questioning, if you wish.
We're reading her rights.
Because you did something stupid.
Right.
Let me explain something here, okay? You can cry about this. What you've done here is a felony.
Yeah, it's a felony.
Okay?
Of course.
It's a felony crime, and you probably had 20 law enforcement officers at least, a helicopter.
Oh, shit, yeah. Like I said, dude, in the beginning, it's all hands on deck when it comes to a freaking kidnapping. You got the helicopter going, you got the freaking whatever officers and whatnot are on duty and whatnot. Even the ones that are off duty and whatnot, I'm pretty sure will be called and be like, hey, yo, that's time to go to work or whatnot,
And all running with lights.
Because all attention is going to be going towards, looking for that person and whatnot. Because, the clock is ticking before, you know, before the kidnappee, you know, is, you know, going to be a headline on the freaking newspaper and whatnot. And that's the one thing the cops are trying to fight, race against the clock for and whatnot, is to prevent that.
Siren on high speed to try to apprehend or try to stop a serious forcible felony from happening. Do you know what happens if one of those officers crashes and gets killed?
Oh yeah, there's even that as well, the possibility of that happening as well. If you know, cops going, you know, yeah, freaking the cops are racing against the clock, like I said, and whatnot, and so they're, you know, freaking flooring it and whatnot. And while they're maneuvering through traffic and whatnot, you know, one wrong move and then, you know, they get hurt, and it's just a domino effect, dude.
On the way to responding to something that you did as a joke. So you better take this serious.
Yeah.
Under pressure from both her father and the deputy, Ava offers an excuse for her actions, which doesn't sit well with the deputy.
Yeah, it's not really. In all seriousness, it's just not gonna fly.
Ava, you need to tell the exact truth. I don't want a story. I don't care what it is. I want the exact truth.
You can't make this go away by being quiet. The only thing that's gonna happen to you is you're gonna end up in a pair of handcuffs going to our.
Well, I will give him, the officer, that and whatnot, but I kind of say that, you know, maybe she can and whatnot in some type of way or whatever. Like the worst that could happen is whatnot, that, you know, of course she's gonna do time and whatnot, end up in the juvenile facility and so on, and then appear in court, go to trial or whatever and whatnot. But, you know, I cannot make heads or tails with something like that either and whatnot, because like I said earlier, you know, all the evidence is pretty much stacked against you, especially once they went through her phone. I think the cops definitely have enough probable cause to, like, you know, of course, arrest her and whatnot, actually.
Our juvenile facility.
Because I'm not sure. Well, if you're from Florida, guys, let me know in the comments, like, how, you know, this sort of thing would play out. Do you think, you know, a minor would be treated, you know, of course, like, you know, as an adult, or, you know, you think there's a possibility of light that they can basically get a slap on the wrist and whatnot? Because even though, you know, what the officer is like saying, or the sheriff and whatnot, he's like, you know, of course 100% correct and whatnot, but also at the same time, if you're, you know, gonna waive your right to, like, you know, invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege, would that sort of thing help, or, you know, give you maybe like a 50-50 of almost getting away with it? Well, maybe not get away with it and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure you'll still be taught a lesson and whatnot. Let me know in the comments, guys, please. Thank you.
I'm not gonna.
Because I think as well in Texas, that sort of thing is definitely, you know, of course, frowned upon and whatnot, and also taken seriously as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Can't mince any words with you. That's a very distinct possibility of what can happen here today. Don't look at your mother. She didn't have any part in this. This was all you.
Yeah.
I think my brother said something that I know just made me pop in the head, and then I ended up doing it today and doing all this.
Was he part of planning this with you?
Probably not.
No, he just said it, and then
what did he say?
He said, "What's 911?"
This is your brother?
Yeah, he said it this way. You want to get him?
Well, we can. When we're done, will you go wait a minute?
Shit.
I said, "No, we can't." I had an idea this morning, and then I just.
So you're trying to blame this on your brother?
You could ask me.
Was he with you when you made this call?
No.
Okay, was he with you when you made these texts?
No.
Okay, then you did this. You were on your own for this. And if your brother's 7 years old, you're not going to blame your 7-year-old brother for this.
Yeah.
This was all your decision.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Yeah, the freaking dad is about to go ape shit. I freaking would go ape shit too, man.
Call 911 to see.
I don't know what the heck was this. You know, like I said earlier on, kids shouldn't necessarily have freaking cell phones and whatnot, or if they do have cell phones, it should only be to make phone calls and texts, no internet access whatsoever. I don't give a shit, because like I said, kids are impressionable and whatnot. And I even had this talk with a couple of my friends as well, because they're parents and whatnot. They don't let their kids whatsoever, have a phone or watch anything, sus or, adult, adult type situations and whatnot whatsoever on YouTube or whatever. They freaking parent control the hell out of, YouTube or whatever when they do give them access and whatnot. But, they keep their phones and whatnot, but if their kid wants to use the phone, it's either for playing games or watching kid YouTube, but they're never gonna have the full extent access of YouTube and whatnot. And I think that's something that should be a standard for parents and whatnot, because I'm sorry, dude, but I get it. Freaking being a parent is not easy and whatnot, but it's no excuse for you to not do your damn job. I can't necessarily say that I'm a parent either or know what it's like or whatever, but I can imagine still, however, and I still have an opinion on it, and you may not agree with me, and that's, totally fine. But, of course, the world can be a very, scary and dangerous place if you don't know what the hell you're getting yourself into, like this freaking 11-year-old and whatnot. She probably got this somewhere on TikTok or whatever the fuck as a prank and whatnot from some creator and whatnot, thinking that it was funny. But who knows that the freaking TikTok person or creator on the internet just made a prank and whatnot, and it was 100% not true or whatever. Or if they're that type of person and whatnot, then they're just gonna get you in trouble and whatnot, and that's not a really good role model to have or something to be following, because I see all the damn TikTok challenges and whatnot. It's really fucking stupid, dude. Honestly, it's so cringe.
What did he say to
that's why it is freaking younger generations, especially from my generation to younger generations, are fucking fuck, dude, because they're doing really retarded shit. I even see it whenever I go shopping too and whatnot. I freaking see teenagers freaking acting sus and whatnot and recording a video to put on TikTok and whatnot. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Really?
So can I ask?
What if he told you to go up on the roof and jump off the roof? Would you do that?
Of course not.
So what's the difference?
Deputies will soon discover the startling truth behind Ava's fabricated story. For now, Ava's mother raises concerns about recent questionable activity on Ava's phone, but it does little to impact the situation.
Yeah.
So I have something really weird with that phone. When we first got that, the phone kept ringing non-stop, ringing in to me. And I was picking it up, and there was people talking, and I'm hello, and
She's trying to refer to when the two officers were talking and trying to make the call. I seriously doubt it though, because she hung up and whatnot, and the time frame was that they were already home and whatnot, and we can already see that we're in the beginning of the video, those two officers talking about it's a white van, and I've responded to calls like this before and whatnot, and I don't want to say it's bogus, yada yada, around that part, right? I don't think this is gonna fly though and whatnot, because the timing is off.
Non-stop, every 4 seconds there was a call coming in with random numbers, and I didn't know that.
I think this is something different.
Block contact. As soon as we got that phone number.
Okay, well, that has nothing to do with what went on today.
Yeah, exactly.
Questions about her intentions lead to a harsh reality check from the deputy, who forces Ava to consider the possible consequences of the false report.
Yeah, no shit, dude.
What were you
the fuck?
planning on happening out of this?
Just a joke. It's not a joke,
What did you
dude.
think was going to happen when you said somebody was kidnapped and somebody had a gun? What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
Well, did you have
the cops don't know any better because they don't have the info.
How much
could have
of
been
the
more
law
dangerous
resources in this area you were going to take up by doing that? I probably never thought of that, right?
No, probably not, because she's 11.
The men and women that have families at home that are driving 90 or 100 miles an hour with their lights and siren on, trying to save somebody who's a victim of an armed kidnapping, that they could be involved in a traffic crash and be seriously injured or killed because you wanted to make a joke.
Yeah.
Does that seem funny to you? Would that be funny if that happened?
It's us.
Because I can tell you that would be even more serious than what you're looking at right now.
You physically see your father walk up to sheriffs, military, everybody, thank you for your service. And then you do like this?
Though it wasn't captured on camera, reports state that Ava admitted to getting the idea to prank 911 from a YouTube challenge. And a deputy attempts to get more details.
Where was this video that you saw? Where was it?
On YouTube.
On YouTube? Do you remember who the creator was or who the poster was, what it was about? What do you mean by all of this? This as in what?
The situation? Okay.
So it was a video about the Palm Coast Chick-fil-A. That's it. That's all the video was about? Gotcha.
What's the thinking, dude?
Yeah. So you saw a video that somebody made about how fun it would be to call 911 or text 911 and say that somebody's got a gun, somebody's trying to get hurt.
Yeah,
you thought it'd be fun to recreate that. Is that what you're telling me? Okay.
However, Ava is about to realize an apology won't be enough to escape the consequences.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, one deputy reveals that he was able to reach Ava by phone just before their arrival and got a less than friendly response from the young girl.
27 minutes, she lied to the dispatcher or the call taker over text, and then when I caught her up, she told me to F myself and stop responding.
Oh.
Caught her up?
Like, got her caught up. Like, hey, you know what's up? The jig's up.
That's when she started deleting more texts.
Well, shit, dude.
Based on Ava's statements, deputy...
She even has a mouth on her at 11, dude. Damn. What the fuck? Especially to a cop, bro. I mean... how do I go about this? Yeah, on the one hand, yeah, you know, you shouldn't disrespect a cop or whatever and whatnot, but also on the other hand, you know, of course, the cop doesn't necessarily have the right to, you know, of course, you know, get all, how do I say, be some type of way if you were like, you know, tell him like F off, pig, or whatever thing and whatnot. Like, of course, like it was just giving some pushback with some obscenities and whatnot. And of course, you know, officers should be able to keep their cool and whatnot, and like, you know, not let it get under their skin or whatever. But you know, we're human, and I understand and whatnot, but still, you know, someone shouldn't necessarily get arrested for something like that or whatever. However, in this situation, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like downhill and whatnot. So could matter, should matter, whatever.
Deputies decide there's enough probable cause.
But yeah, even for like, you know, I guess like an 11-year-old, like what the heck, damn, she's got a mouth on her. So
to arrest Ava and prepare to take the 11-year-old into custody.
Yeah, they do have enough evidence.
Amanda, there's that. Hey.
Don't make it worse for yourself, dude.
She can't sit in a dentist's office, so that's why I'm saying.
Deep breath.
Listen carefully. Don't make this.
She's
gonna come out there. No, she'll be out there.
She is going to hurt herself right now. She's not going to. Don't provide her.
Daddy hurts.
So stop. Listen to me. What's your Ava? Ava. Stop struggling, okay? They're not going to hurt you. Yeah, they're not going to hurt you. Listen carefully what's going to happen here. No one's going to hurt you. You're going to sit in the car for now, okay? If you go somewhere, what it's going to involve is taking pictures, taking fingerprints, and then they're going to call your parents to come and get you. So don't make the situation any worse. They'll go.
Although I gotta kind of have to understand it when she's 11 years old and whatnot. She, of course, obviously doesn't know the gravity of the situation, but I hope the parents, like, you know, give her. Well, this whole situation is going to give her a dose of reality and whatnot. Basically,
shortly after that,
you know. Especially for, like, you know, women who are like older women, you know, adult women and whatnot, act like this and whatnot. And, you know, a freaking fully adult person and whatnot, and freaking acting like a brat, like she doing, screaming and kicking and whatever. Like, dude, what the fuck you doing?
In the car?
No, you can't go in the car.
It's a tough move, yeah.
Like, probably at this point, you know, for like a 11-year-old or whatever, you know, I guess I could give it somewhat of a pass and whatnot, but, like, of course, you know, if you're an adult and whatnot and acting like a motherfucking fool or whatever, then, you know, you deserve to get tased or whatever. Whatever is going to happen to you and whatnot.
It just can't happen.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this right now, you're going to take this as a lesson at 11 years old, that if you do something stupid in the future, you're going to enjoy those cuffs.
Damn. Yeah.
Ava is placed into the back of the police car where her father delivers a few hard truths.
I'm just warning you, you're not going to sit for a couple hours. They're going to be bringing you into a building, fingerprinting you, doing all sorts of stupid for your stupid. Your life just changed, kid.
Yeah, no
Over
shit.
a phone call, your life just changed.
Minutes later, the reality of the situation continues to have an emotional impact on her parents.
Sorry, Mom.
This is the best punishment for her right now. Sucks for us, but this is the best thing for her because she's bouncing on it.
It sucks for us. I work my off with you to keep this kid doing stuff normal like we did as kids, and this is the she does.
Yeah.
According to
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a parent, please keep your freaking kids on a straight and narrow in a way. Know what's going on in their lives and whatnot. Don't give them a damn cell phone and whatnot. And if you do, just only for texts and calls and whatnot. They don't need the damn internet for that and whatnot. There's already too much freaking terrible shit going out there and whatnot. And I know that might be a hot take or whatever, but just think about it, dude. You got freaking idiots on YouTube saying like, oh, do this prank, this is going to be funny and blah, blah, blah. Or you got weirdos even on there, you know, just waiting for the opportunity to, you know, just freaking snatch your kid up and whatever. Gotta be careful out there, dude. You gotta freaking teach your kids that, like, you know, as soon as you step out of your house, the world is freaking, you know, cruel, and it will eat you up, spit you out, and eat you again if, you know, you're not careful and you don't know what the hell you're doing. Don't talk to strangers, all that type of shit.
To a statement from the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, 11-year-old Ava was charged with making a false police report concerning the use of a firearm in a violent manner, a felony, and misuse of 911, a misdemeanor.
Exactly. Misdemeanor.
After being processed at the Family Resource Center, she was later transferred to the Volusia Regional Juvenile Detention Center in Daytona Beach, Florida, an experience she is unlikely to forget. We requested more information about her case from the Volusia County Juvenile Court, and they said nothing is releasable.
Well,
there's from the Wausau Police Department.
Sorry. Well, shit, man. Sorry about that. Yeah, freaking.
So there was a text.
That was a, you know, bit of an eye opener. Well, not an eye opener, but, you know, freaking that's situation that I don't think any parent, you know, would want to wish upon their child and whatnot, you know. But of course, in this situation for this girl, you know, of course, I hope, you know, she learns from this and whatnot, because pulling some shit like that is very sus, so to speak. Be careful out there, guys. All right. Thank you for watching, guys. Be careful out there. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll react to something else and whatnot, whatever that may be. Maybe more, you know, these law enforcement body cam type videos or interrogations, etc. So like I said, let me know in the comments about, you know, what you think about the situation, or how do you think, you know, this sort of thing can play out if you were to invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege. Do you think you have a chance to, like, you know, get a slap on the wrist, or maybe get community service, or I don't know, whatever punishment, probation, etc. and whatnot? Or do you think this you know, this 11-year-old should be tried as an adult or whatever? Because there are times where, like, you know, children are tried as an adult, you know. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for me. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also give a thumbs up for the video to help with the algorithm, guys, please. And thank you. And we'll catch you in the next one.